I'm gonna go into here, and since I'm like ranting, let me do my little rant on that. So yeah, in terms of video games, I've been, again, like I said, not an avid gamer, but definitely a gamer fan for a very long time. Um, had my first Nintendo. Actually, interesting story about my first Nintendo. I didn't really want it. I didn't know what Nintendo was. So when I oops, sorry about that, you guys. Let me just do that. So when I actually went and got my first Nintendo, my dad bought it for me. I had absolutely no idea what a video game was. I was playing Atari. I had the 7600, and the 7600 is kind of cool because it's not the 2600. Ooh, what? I know 2600, 70, whatever. But the 2600 it was just a unit where you put the cartridge in the front and you had the joysticks. Now the 7600 was fancy because it's the same unit, but it had a built-in keyboard onto it. So that's the one I had. We were fancy. But yeah, with that, it was kind of cool. I was just playing with that. Um, and it was an interesting experience when I was actually going through video games because again, the Nintendo, I didn't really like the Nintendo at first. Not that I didn't like Nintendo, it's just I actually didn't know what it was. I absolutely no idea. Started playing Super Mario. I was like, oh, this is a really cool game, and it just kind of started from there. Played everything notable, all the mainstream stuff. Want to thank my cousins for getting me to some of the other things coming out of Japan at the time with Famicom. When Super Nintendo came, it was of course Super Famicom. Got to do some of the Japanese games that came out around that time. Got to see all of the like Dragon Ball games, which was kind of cool. My cousins would find them. I had no idea where they were. So I was able to play them on Super Nintendo and it was during this kind of renaissance time of video games when in order to find like a video game, a very rare video game, you have to go to a rental store that actually supported bringing imported games, such as Japanese games, over. So it was very hard to find some games. It was really a great time. I loved it, being able to go around and to just find these particular games to play. So Dragon Ball was one of the biggest things that I liked. It was very hard to find only on Super Famicom. Was a big avid fan of like Zeldas, even though as a as a young gamer and a young boy, I didn't have the hand-eye coordination to ever beat a Zelda game until A Link to the Past and then that's when I actually did it. Since then, I was always a kind of a Zelda fanboy, not a super fanboy, but I just liked their games. And then from there, did what else did I do? Super Mario definitely. Um, just a whole bunch of other things. So, um, I I loved games ever since then. I was always I was always the last to the show when it came to new consoles as well. So as I continued on, everyone was getting like PS2s, things like. Oh yeah. So when I first, I should skip to this because, or go back to this because when everyone was getting a Super Nintendo, I was the one getting the Sega Genesis. In my family, and my cousin can attest to this. I think he's in chat. I was the Sega Genesis guy, and I would every family party I would rage because I was the only guy that didn't have a Super Nintendo. Everyone else had one, and it was kind of cool though because then like all the Sega titles like Sonic and there were a couple of other ones that people would never ever play. They'd play it on Sega Genesis only, and I became that fanboy. So in a way, I kind of became the underground guy because I played games that normally they would not see within their consoles. So it was kind of cool. With that too, man, I'm ranting for a little bit more than I thought, but whatever. Let's keep going. But with that, it was kind of cool because when I went to Super Nintendo, and that's when everyone else went to PS2, the PS1 or PlayStation. And I just, oh man, I'm late to the show again. But I got to play some of the late model titles within SNES. And then from there I was just always late. So I just became a PlayStation fanboy with the N64. I never had one. Always played with my friends. But of course, the PlayStation had so many games that came out along around this time that like you could keep the console and still play really good games. You didn't have to upgrade your console at the time. And it was kind of the end of a renaissance and on to a new age. After the N64 and the GameCube came out, this is when PS2 came out. Xbox wanted to, and Microsoft wanted to get into it. It went all the way up until like the freak show that we have now with the PS4, the Xbox One, or Xbone is what people are calling it now. And then of course the Wii and the Wii U. And it's just it's a crazy thing that's going on right now with games. And just in consoles, and I mean, I don't even want to get into the PC stuff where, like I was talking about before, I got a yes from my cousin. He's like, yeah, I remember that time when we used to laugh at you for having a Sega Genesis. Yeah, that was me. But it was interesting because it's interesting now what's going on, because there's so many. I feel like games are just getting to a certain plateau. Because all the games are looking the same. They all look with the same graphics, the same animations, the same 1080, 60 frames a second, the same high resolutions, the same adoption of the industry standard, and the standard hasn't changed. It's still 1080p. It's still 60 frames a second. It's still high quality video, high quality games. It even seems like a lot of things are becoming third person shooters, third person role playing or strategy. Everything's becoming the same. Like everything is starting to look like either Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed. It's just a different kind of version. Or Grand Theft Auto. Everything's becoming either open world or online games or online play. It's just interesting what games are going through right now. That renaissance period of gaming is starting to get lost. And if I can rant on this, even though I haven't played too many games lately, I don't even have a console anymore. I just go directly PC games, competitive games, mostly with LoL and StarCraft 2. I don't really play too many games anymore unless I really, really have to. Would I like to get back? That'd be kind of cool. I don't have the time. And I don't see, I don't know, unless someone really liked it, I don't really see myself becoming one of those video game commentators like the guys on X-Play, which is now gone, or things like Screw Attack or Machinima. I don't really see myself as a reviewer. Would I do it? Heck yeah, I'd do it. If they pay me for it, I'll do it. But one thing that I really miss is the whole idea of the renaissance of games, where the new IPs came out so frequently. And what I mean by IP is intellectual properties. Things like when Mega Man first came out, when Zelda first came out, when Sonic the Hedgehog, at first people were like, oh, well, it's supposed to be like the Mario killer. It's actually not. It became its own intellectual property and had its own storyline. It had its own characters. It was amazingly incredible in its own way. They started to do it in the early or late 90s, early 2000s, when things like Ratchet and Clank would come out, or Banjo and Kazooie for a short time. They were trying to do that. The adoption of things like Assassin's Creed in the early 2000s, when it started to come out, it was there, but it was still adopting forms of what they saw in the past. However, it was very innovative. Grand Theft Auto, when it actually went to open world, was a very, very avid intellectual property. And I think Rockstar Games would do well to keep that genre alive. Or not genre, I should say passion alive. And continue on with other intellectual properties, different ways of playing games. Tony Hawk and Pro Skaters. Bringing pro skating onto... I remember playing Tony Hawk the first time. When I was doing it, I actually thought I could skate. Like, I was like, oh, I know all the... Oh, wait. What's the question? Hold up. I will answer the question. Oh, okay, I will. I'll answer the question, but let me just finish this real quick, and I will answer the question. Don't worry about it. I'm going to answer it, but one really interesting thing that came with intellectual properties was... it was just that innovation of games. I loved it. I loved playing games so much, because they were all new. And now it's just like I don't even have a console because every game that you buy is just it's just a reworked game of another. It's all an Assassin's Creed copy or a Call of Duty copy, FPS. It's all a like Doom or Quake 3 copy. That's why I don't like playing them anymore. One thing I think that I liked about StarCraft 2, which I didn't like at first, was the whole idea of RTS. I never played it because I knew I sucked at it. Is that wrong to say? Whatever. I'll say it. I sucked at it. I really did. I stunk at the game. But now that I had the hand-eye coordination to actually get decent, I started playing it, and it became kind of like a whole new world for me. Not Disney's a whole new world, but you know what I mean. It's just a whole new realm. When the online battle arenas actually came out with LOL, specifically with Dota when it came out, I'm going to give a shout out to Dota first. Even though LOL, I mean, there was that whole like thing with Riot Games and the split. I heard about it, don't know the full story, but it's video game political mess. And then with that and with Han as well too. I think it was Han also that was kind of doing it. But that whole mess with battle arenas, like it or not though, it created this new genre of play. It also became apparent when Street Fighter first came out. When Street Fighter 2 first came out, and there was that one-on-one fighting strategy concept. That was an incredible thing. It was incredibly robust for games to actually have a concept where you actually fight one-on-one. Really great for arcade vendors because it would just pour in the money of quarters in every bowling alley / liquor store. I remember actually sleeping over at my cousin's house because I knew the next day we'd walk to his what was that place? His liquor store that was only like 2-3 blocks away from his house, where there was a Street Fighter 2 just sitting there, where we could play all day. This was before, of course, getting it on the Super Nintendo and being able to play there and just have family parties, just dedicated to, hey, this is going to be like a 6-hour Street Fighter marathon. But that intellectual property was amazing. So I would say games need to get back to that Renaissance period. So with that, I know I went on a rant, you guys. I'm already getting comments from everyone. It's like, oh, well, I thought you were gonna do the story. Well, yeah, I will talk about the question, but I did want to get that out there. I just went on a little kind of rant on video games, and I'm a nerd. You're gonna find that out more and more as you continue to watch me. And with that, I'm basically going to end the time. One thing I do want to say before closing, in terms of video games and intellectual properties, if I could say something to the industry that they'll probably never hear, but hopefully they do, you need to stick to innovation. I know right now with corporations and everyone saying, "Hey, we want this, we want that." If you can find a way, and independent gaming is doing so well right now doing this because they're creating intellectual properties. They're creating new games, innovative games that people never thought about. They're doing such a good job in handling the way systems are made and what they're made to perform. I'm kind of reminded, if you ever seen Apollo 13, they have this scene where all these scientists actually come up while like the whole space, like the spaceship is kind of like falling towards Earth. And they talk to the lead of the program because he's the one that's trying to get him back. All these scientists say, well, we got this, and the LEM and the shuttle is not really designed for to do these things, and he basically stops everyone and says, I don't care what it was designed to do, tell me what it can do. I don't care what it's designed to do, and I feel like independent games does that. When independent gamers actually go in and people making games go in and they go into a system, they rip apart an Xbox and they say, okay, we know what it was designed to do, but what can it do? Let's bring out like a really good person. And I'll end with this. I promise you guys, I'll end with this. A really good person that pushes the limits of every game system that I've seen so far is Hideo Kojima, the creator and founder of Kojima and also the Metal Gear series. He pushes the limits of what the system can do. He pushes like, if you see some of the stuff that's going to be going on to, I think it's the Xbox One. He actually, one of the things that I really like is he 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 is he's pushed the system in terms of analyzing light and light procedures during the day. So it's an actual 24-hour real world experience. So when you're playing the game in the daytime, it'll stay daytime until it turns night. So when it turns night in your world, in the real world, IRL, then it will turn night in the real world, and the lighting actually changes too. Ooh, do I play Dota or Grunge MU? I don't play either. I play LOL just because it's easy. And I think I'll end with that. So thanks you guys for that. I'm still going to stay on, of course. But I wanted to get that rant out of the way. So one more thing before I end the rant. Definitely check me out. EmbraceTheStains.com. All my art is over there, as well as the links to my Ustream and YouTube. And if you have any questions that you want me to answer on stream, whether you're an artist